Hey there everyone, AJ back again for the Mighty Gluestick channel. I make videos about Dungeons & Dragons lore full time so that you don't have to. I've got hundreds of monster ecology and fantasy world history videos on my channel. If you like what I do, please consider becoming a member of the channel by clicking the join button down below, or backing me on Patreon where you can get full access to all of the scripts that I write for these videos, and of course subscribing to me here as I upload at least twice a week. Carrying on with the remastered Giant series, just under the rank of Titan in the Ordning come the Storm Giants, who are currently the highest ranking giants living on the world of Toril. Male Storm Giants stand at least 26 feet tall and can be up to 29 feet and 4 inches, weighing between 3,750 and 4,150 pounds. Females stand between 23 feet 4 inches and 26 feet and 8 inches, weighing 2,500 to 2,900 pounds. Most of the Storm Giants, or Uvarjoten as they are known in their own language, have pale purple-grey or light green skin and hair ranging from dark green to a dark mauve with glittering emerald-coloured eyes. But a small number have violet skin, dark blue hair and silver eyes. This is certainly related to their ancestry and is very important to their social dynamics, their ordning and history, but is largely a mystery to anyone who is not quite knowledgeable on the giants and their cultures. Some scholars assume this had to do with adaptations to either living in the ocean depths or living at high altitudes, but that's not the case at all. Though gigantic, their proportions resemble those of a human, well formed like a classic Greek statue. When first seen by a medium-sized humanoid who has only ever heard of giants and not actually seen one before, it is a surreal, somewhat terrifying experience, where one feels suddenly shrunk down to the insignificant proportions of a mouse. Even a human who's seen a hill giant before is not prepared for the stature of a storm giant. Storm giants are in no way ponderous beings. They are immensely strong and quite agile, with fine reaction speed and a delicate touch. Fingers able to crush wooden logs into splinters are just as able to pluck harpstrings to bring forth rich and soulful melodies. In many ways, it is the tiny folk who are weak, primitive and brutish in their eyes, like dull little fairies who have lost their magic, sad living imitations of their own kind, living short and desperate lives like toys who believe they are real people. To the storm giants, humans look like minute, skinny hill giants, a lot more clever, but terribly fragile and with squeaky voices that they can barely hear most of the time. Storm giants are contemplative seers that live in places far removed from the lands that swarm with the little people. They hold no particular ill will towards the tiny races and are seen by many as benevolent and wise, like ancient and noble prophets who can be sought out and respectfully approached for answers to important questions about the past and the future. Reaching their enclaves is always quite a quest, as they make their homes in isolated refuges, such as magically levitated earth moats so far above the surface of the world or below the sea that they are beyond the reach of most other creatures. Some make their abodes in cloud-top castles so high that flying dragons appear as specks below. Others live atop mountain peaks that pierce the clouds among the mightiest mountain ranges on the world of Toril. Some occupy palaces covered with algae and coral at the bottom of the ocean, the history of the ancient world told in intricate swirling carvings now buried beneath ancient reefs, or deep and grim fortresses within the isolated dangerous currents of heat from geothermal vents, volcanic chasms at the bottom of undersea rifts, glowing with strange bioluminescent life forms unique to the lurid scarlet-lit landscape beneath miles of black and frigidly cold ocean. The home of the Storm Giants is much like that of the Titan's abode, with the feeling of a classic Greek temple, airy, spacious. Carved stone pillars support massive domes of perfectly fitted stone. Precious metals and gems decorate carved murals. Huge benches, which hold oraries, scrying crystals, all manner of wondrous objects and the occasional artifact. Storm Giants have keen minds and heightened awareness of the world around them, plus the world beyond them. Wandering among their projects and curios, Storm Giants at home wear simple seeming garb of short, loose tunics belted at the waist, either barefoot or wearing sandals, with simple decorative anklets, armbands, rings, neck torques, headbands and circlets, all very finely crafted jewellery and almost always enchanted. They spend their time playing music, contemplating, reading and composing carved tablets of all manner of subjects. They tend to their livestock and till their land or gather the foods they most enjoy. They are well known to cultivate plants and animals that are gigantic in size to better suit their appetites. Although such things take much longer to grow, the storm giants live for 600 years. Their children take 50 years to grow, so they're in no hurry, and they certainly do not tolerate small humanoids trying to rush them. I should point out that they don't eat their livestock. They tend them for wool and eggs and things like that. If they want fresh meat, they go hunting for it, and are quite fond and very capable of using very large composite longbows. They usually carry pouches attached to their belt containing simple musical instruments such as panpipes or a harp. They'll have various useful items and a snack of some kind, but they prefer to leave their wealth in their home, unless they foresee a specific reason to be carrying anything to trade, such as the ancient dinner plate-sized metal coins of the old kingdom of Astoria. Seeing the simple furnishings and garb of a storm giant, one might think that their technology is primitive, if very well crafted, but when they are going out hunting or suspect that danger may be on their cards, they use very large composite longbows with enough power and accuracy to hit targets with pinpoint accuracy within 180 feet, as if there was close range for a storm giant archer. They rarely hurl boulders like the other giants, since they have innate magical powers thanks to their divine ancestry, enabling them to hurl lightning bolts. In combat, this power to summon electrical energy recharges on a roll of 5 or 6 on a 6-sided die at the start of each of their turns. The giant hurls a magical lightning bolt at a point it can see within 500 feet of it. Each creature within 10 feet of that point must make a DC 17 dexterity saving throw, taking 12d8 lightning damage on a failed save, or half as much damage on a successful one. For the sake of convenience, the stats for the hurled rock or enchanted longbow can be exactly the same, except the rock is plus 14 to hit within 60 feet and rolls with disadvantage on the attack roll between 61 and 240 feet, long range for a boulder, doing 4d12 plus 9 bludgeoning damage, while the longbow arrow has twice the range, half the damage, and it is piercing damage, of course. They will prefer to keep their distance from a target and whittle it down with ranged attacks, but are capable melee fighters, skilled at using a great sword, and they're quite fond of going into melee combat, as all giants are. Plus 14 to hit with a 10-foot reach, inflicting 6d6 plus 9 slashing damage twice per round. I know they're listed as wearing scale mail armor in the core monster manual for 5th edition, but they actually prefer to wear a breastplate most of the time. If they're expecting danger, their armor class is between 15 or 16. The average adult has 230 hit points, and they will carry a couple of healing potions if they're expecting a fight. They swim or walk at 50 feet per round, taking half damage from any cold effect, and are immune to lightning and thunder. As beings with divine blood, they have innate magical powers, using their charisma of 18 and the resulting spell save of DC 17. A storm giant can cast detect magic, feather fall, levitate, and light at will, plus control weather and water breathing up to 3 times per day. Water breathing and levitate is handy for transporting or protecting those who visit their very remote homes. The Monster Manual says that the Storm Giants recall the glory of ancient giant empires forged by the god Anam. They seek to restore what was lost when those empires fell. They don't compete for status in the ordning, but live out the centuries of their existence in contemplative seclusion, watching the starry heavens and the ocean depths for signs, symbols, and omens of Anam's favour. Storm Giants see the events of the world in a wide perspective. They can foretell the rise and fall of kings and empires, see the beginnings and ends of fortune and disaster, and find the patterns within seemingly unrelated events. But, reading omens and prophesying, Storm Giants learn of vast secrets previously unknown and troves of lore utterly forgotten. The concerns of Storm Giants are beyond the concerns of mere mortals. Kings will rise and fall, wars will be won and lost, and good and evil will wrestle in conflict. Storm Giants have watched these events in the manner of mortal gods over many lifetimes. They know it's pointless to intervene. Even so, a Storm Giant might willingly disclose certain secrets to benevolent beings that visit its remote domain with specific purpose. Such creatures must speak and act respectfully, however, for a Storm Giant roused to anger is a force of utter destruction. Some humanoid cultures worship storm giants as they would worship lesser gods, creating myths and stories around the giants' exploits and vast knowledge. A storm giant is governed by the dictates of its conscience, however, and not by any culture's laws or codes of honour. As such, a storm giant that bends its mind toward greed or gains a taste for petty power can easily become a terrible threat. Storm giants tend to have favourable relationships with silver dragons and good aligned clown giants. Aquatic dwelling storm giants have the same sort of relationship with merfolk, tritons, and bronze dragons, although of course the Tritons will always carry something of a crusade and try and get the Storm Giants involved. A much rarer and much more horrific offshoot of the Storm Giant race are the subterranean so-called Hunched Giants known as the Moor. They are dead white in colour with washed out lank yellow or grey hair, their hunchbacked and stooped body decorated with circlets and amulets of highly polished stones, and the skin further decorated with body glyphs scarred into their skin by cutting or branding. They are no longer able to stand upright. Their legs are more bestial than humanoid, with backward bent knees like those of a jackal. Its massive hands have heavily calloused knuckles from using them to crawl around on all fours, its pitch black eyes twice as large as a normal storm giant, peering through its wild hair. As it moves, it clinks and scrapes from a short skirt and a shirt of overlapping carved discs of stone mail. If and when they do enter a chamber with a roof clearance of at least 20 feet, the Maua get to haul themselves a bit more upright, which is a painful and joint-popping experience, somewhat agonising, but one that they relish, particularly if they get to fight in such a cavern, as their strength is enhanced when they're extended like that and they get to use their full reach to pulverise and snatch up opponents. Like other storm giants, the Maua can also unleash hurled lightning bolts. Descended from an outcast band of storm giants imprisoned in the earth for long-forgotten crimes, the Maua have taken many thousands of years to descend to their current physical state of devolution. Still, they attempt to retain some of the forebears' high culture, so they are not the brutish, animalistic creatures they resemble. But though they are desperate to advance their culture, they're even more desperate for freedom. In their own subterranean enclave, they spend most of their waking hours fighting off incursions of mind flayers who love to feast on big brains and gathering what meagre food that there is together. Any that are encountered outside their lost prisons are probably in service to some greater power, working to pay their debts of freedom that they can never attain. Towards the end of their days, Storm Giant elders who have long foreseen their fate may opt to forestall the inevitable. Some Storm Giants approaching the end of their natural lifespans will seek an escape from death. They plumb the depths of their powerful connection to the elements and disperse themselves into nature, literally transforming into semi-conscious storms. The blizzard that rages unendingly around a mountain peak, the vortex that swirls around a remote island, or the thunderstorm that howls ceaselessly up and down a rugged coastline could, in fact, be the undying form of a storm giant quintessence, as they call them, clinging to existence. A storm giant quintessence can revert to its true giant form on a whim. The change is temporary but can be maintained long enough for the giant to communicate with a mortal, carry out a short task, or defend its home against aggressors. They summon weapons of energy out of thin air, such as lightning swords or wind javelins. For the full stats on these legendary creatures, see Volo's Guide to Monsters. For information on Eldritch and Death Giants, I'll be making many more videos in this series about specific giant breeds and offshoots. Please hit the like button if you made it this far, subscribe if you like what I do, check out my Patreon for some exclusive content and all the full scripts for these videos, buy some merchandise, wear your geek with pride, and as always, thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more for you very soon.